All right, greetings there. Here's another video on the Great Reset. Please subscribe, click on the notification button, click on the like button, and also share this video. All right, so let's start with the prayer as we always do. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Jesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostre. Amen. Ave Maria, sede sapientiae, ora pro nobis, nomine Patris et Filii, Spiritus Sancti. Amen. All right, so we're going to continue to talk. This is like part 2 of the series, if you will. Please see the part 1 on the Great Reset. Here's the book, the original book, or should I say, written by the author who founded the Great Reset, who's also the founder and the executive of the World Economic Forum, Klauss Schwab, right? So he's written other books. He's an economist, and he's not a politician, but he knows a lot about politics. All right, so the Great Reset, we talked about in the introduction how it's looking to instill a worldwide communism. Now, in the spiritual sense, there should exist a Great Reset, right? In order to change the world, we have to change ourselves interiorly, individually, right? I love when Jordan Peterson says, you want to change the world, but first make your bed, clean your room. So we need a reset or a revolution interior first in a spiritual sense in order to truly change society. Now, what's worrisome about this, besides the name communism, of course, which instills fear because of the millions it's killed in the 20th century are associated with it, those deaths. But the fact that this Great Reset lacks transcendence. It doesn't talk about God. You don't see a sound anthropology. In order to really reform, right, society, we have to have a correct anthropology. We have to know what man truly is. So if we just have a materialist view of man, then our focus will be in his material good, right? This utopia here and now on this earth, and that's what essentially communism is. It doesn't see anything that goes beyond man as mere matter. So communism is materialistic, essentially. So this is the same thing here. It's the same thing here with the Great Reset. So another interesting fact is that this book was written during the pandemic. It came out in June, July, almost 300 pages. It's pretty thick, if you see it. There's reflection here. If you see it, it's thick. So this was definitely something already in the making, right? It was definitely planned. Now, if the virus itself was something planned, that is questionable. There's actually doctors that are being censored. There's one that fleeing from China. Her mother got arrested in China. Her family's still there, but she's in America now. And she says, this virus has characteristics that is no way it could be fruit of natural evolution. It's definitely manipulated somehow. It has a lot of, different characteristics. Who knows? But what is true is that definitely, and it has been said, political leaders want to take advantage of this pandemic, right? With this Great Reset, and we're going to go over it. So in the introduction, we kind of talked about a little bit the notion of quarantine, right? What are they looking for in the Great Reset? And now we're going to enter a little bit, not fully, we'll fully enter in the next video, the macro reset, right? There's a macro reset, micro reset, and reset, individual reset. So the macro reset is going to have 5 subdivisions. The macro reset is going to have an economic reset, a societal reset, a geopolitical reset, environmental reset, and a technological reset. And as I said, it's all about a worldwide control, right? A unity, in instilling of globalism, a more efficient globalism. And again, what's eerie about this is that the individual is diminished. The individual is marginalized. And that is, we've been seeing that, right, on the news, or we have even experienced it, that individual liberties are being suppressed. And that's unfortunate, right? And again, it goes back to the denial of God, because the denial of God, ultimately, we will deny our natural rights, our objective rights. Today, the whole notion of rights is totally warped. We only believe in subjective rights, right? I can just make up arbitrarily my own rights. No, there's actually something that I'm due. Uh, Justice is objective and rights are based on that. So subjective rights are based on objective rights. And they're both based on natural rights, which is based on natural law, which stems from our human nature, right? Which rests on God. So without getting too deep into that, it's important in natural rights. And actually that is inherited from John Locke, which I like. Originally in our Constitution it says, we have the right for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Originally it was from John Locke, life, liberty, and property. Interesting. Property is essential, and it's one of the things that communism seeks to destroy, the natural right to have property, defended by Pope Leo XIII in the first social encyclical Rerum Novarum. Very important read. He's defending, right? Is defending private property there. Okay, so before we get into the macro reset, Klauss Schwab in this book is going to talk about 3 characteristics that define our lives, that define society, right? Rapid change, velocity. Today's world, everything moves much faster than before. That is true. And he's saying that the virus increased exponentially, right? That is absolutely true, right? Interdependence, which is an effect of globalism, or it's essentially tied to globalism, that we are interdependent. Something good happens to a nation, it affects, right, positively other nations, and vice versa. Something bad happens, it affects the other nation. Okay, there's a lot of truth to this when he's talking about interdependence. If one aspect, right, of culture or society is affected, then there is a macro effect. So if there's an effect if there are natural disasters, if there's another environmental type of thing, or if there's a water crisis or unemployment, it's affect everything else. There's an interdependence, right? Everything is intertwined, making society, in a sense, it could be very stable or unstable. So there's truth to that, right? There's definitely truth to that. That's the way things are. We lived in a fast-paced society when he's talking about velocity. We live in a world of rapid change, which I like what he mentions here. He says the dictatorship of urgency, right? That's definitely true. COVID had increased at one point exponentially. Yes, that is true. Also, the last one's complexity. We live in a complex society. Yes, that is another thing that is true. It is very complex, especially with technology. Nonlinearity is a key feature of complexity because it means that a change is just one component of a system. In just one component of a system can lead to a surprising and disproportionate effect elsewhere. So it's complex, right? It's true. So there's surprises, there's turbulence, right? There's a lot of uncertainty. There's true. What happens? He's using this to justify something that is called quantum politics. I'm going to get into that. I just want to read one of his quotes here from the book before I get into that. Another thing he's trying to justify. The containment of the coronavirus pandemic will necessitate a global surveillance network capable of identifying new outbreaks as soon as they arrive. So he's trying to argue for we need an adaptive government, a government that can adapt to change, right? That can be efficient through change. And it doesn't seem like there's anything wrong with that. But that in itself, right, what I just mentioned, but this global surveillance, right, we're seeing here kind of a taking away of the individual rights, or at least a lack of emphasis on the same. And then he's going to say, these great international organizations like the World Health Organization, right, the World Economic Forum, the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, the CEPI, An individual like Bill Gates, and he's going to actually mention also, they have been warning us, even with specific details about this. Oh, he's kind of almost supporting the claim, some people say this was planned, but I guess one could deduce certain things, but to a certain point. I mean, if someone's prophesizing something with specifics, then, you know, I'm sorry if the light is kind of like, my last video was kind of dark, so people were like, can you put more light in your video? I was like, sure. So I think I'm putting too much light. I have a light bulb here. My hand is like glowing. So going back to the quantum politics that I was talking about. Now, quantum mechanics is an enigma, right? On the subatomic level, it seems like there is chaos, at least. There's a lot of definitely uncertainty. It's not as clear cut, not as certain, not as precise, not as ordered as physics was understood on the macro level, or is understood on the macro level, the Newtonian physics, linear physics. So quantum politics, and this is what happened with ideologues. Quantum mechanics is going to be generalized into an ideology. The same thing, like evolution becomes evolutionism. Everything changes. The theory of relativity becomes relativism. So you broaden it to an ideology. So quantum mechanics now becomes very broadened to quantum philosophy, which means that reality is complex, it's uncertain, and deep down there are no absolutes. And the problem with that right there is that it's a self-contradiction. You cannot start with that presupposition that there are no absolutes, because you're affirming the very thing you're denying. You're affirming the only absolute is that there are none. So it is absurd. So he's going to say the quantum world, right? Saying that we live kind of in the quantum world. Highly interconnected and uncertain. Incredibly complex and also changing depending on the position of the observer. Now, of course, this is true, though some of it can be seen as an interpretation, right? The philosophy of science is different from the data we get from science, but they're connected. But this is true on the subatomic level. On the macro level, this is not, right? You cannot affirm this philosophically, right, and generalize it. So this is a basis. I'm telling you, there's a philosophy that is deep down here. It's a pernicious philosophy. It's a philosophy of, it's the postmodernist philosophy, essentially, where objectivity is attacked, right? Immutability is attacked. Absolute or meta-narratives are attacked. So relativism really does culminate into tyranny. Some people think, you know, absolutism. It does too. It could. But it's tyranny. Tyranny is the most dogmatic, and we're seeing that today. It becomes dogmatic. The denial of truth. You don't allow anyone to affirm a truth. All right, so we're going to leave it there. I don't want the videos to be too long. We're going to leave it there. I'm going to continue with the first, in my next video, with the first subdivision on the macro level, which will be the economic reset. All right. And as I said in the beginning, the Great Reset must be spiritual. That's why my main videos they treat the spiritual life. How can we grow in these turbulent times spiritually? Very important. So check out those other videos also. All right. I'll see you later. Take care. God bless. Bye now.